Welcome back to the world famous Jiggy Jaguar radio program. Also, our good friends on iHeartRadio today. We're doing an exclusive interview via Skype with Ed Roman today on our Skype line. We've got Ed. Ed, welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
James, I am great, and it's great to be back on the Jiggy Jaguar show on KGAG Radio.
Now, you're doing some amazing things in the music industry. I wanted to take some time today to have you on our iHeartRadio program. First of all, let's educate all the iHeart listeners to exactly what you do and how you got started doing the music.
Well, I'm a musician. I'm a multi-instrumentalist. I'm a bass player by trade, but I'm also a singer-songwriter. I'm a storyteller, and I got started in music many years ago. Back in the 70s, I fell in love with the whole sort of concept of, what music could do and the power behind it, and the post-60s culture and things like that. But as a dyslexic kid in school, music was a way for me to gravitate to something that allowed me to self-express myself with sort of all the kind of conditioning that, academic stuff sort of expects. So I spent a lot of time with my guitar. As I got older, I started to study the bass, high school and concert band and stage band and all that stuff. Went on to college to study music and performance with that particular instrument. And I've always been writing and playing in bands. And for many years, I had a unit that was called Special Ed and the Musically Challenged, where, I wrote a lot of this sort of heady music that was progressive in a way. And some of it was very melodic. We pushed the envelopes in a lot of ways with different styles that ranged from, jazz, funk, folk, R&B, all of that kind of stuff, because it was all encompassing in all of our backgrounds. But then as we got older, I started to branch out even on my own, because life gets busy with other musicians and everything else. And I just been writing continually and putting out records, and things have been doing really well. The last record, Letters from High Latitude, it was doing extremely well in the U.S. I won an award for it this past year. The IMEA handed me out the Best Contemporary Artist of the Year, which was amazing. Got to play down in Kentucky at the beautiful Paramount Theater in Ashland. Yeah, things have been going well, and I don't plan on stopping anytime. I'm writing more now. I've been releasing videos the whole time from the last record, and I'm planning on a new record and embarking on it in the spring, obviously, of 2015, and a release sometime in the fall or pre-Christmas kind of a thing for 15. But I'm happy to keep doing what I'm doing. I love writing, meeting people, talking about life. I'm very political. I come from a very political background. I'm also very up on food and agriculture. So there's metaphors of that kind of stuff that exist in the music. And I think that's also another reason why so many people relate to it, because it's stuff that's in people's subconscious. And usually when you start a conversation with somebody, they're concerned about certain things that are going on in their immediate environment and on a federal level too. So it's pretty easy to strike a conversation and have sparks come out of it. Then in that regard, it's easier to even write a song to be able to express those things.
Ed Roman with us today here on the program. He joins us live. Ed is no stranger to the music industry. Right out of the gate with his freshman release in 2000, Special Ed and the Musically Challenged, Ed Roman defined his paradigm with inventive, infectious tunes that shook one's morale and stirred the spirit. This guy is unique. He's just follow-up releases with SEMC, continued to mesmerize and astonish with music that both kissed and prodded, seduced and challenged, and hypnotized and enlightened. Tell me a little bit about some of these releases, my friend, because you're doing some amazing things with the music.
Well, yeah, those, and we had a lot of people that would, compare the band to certain things, and some of it was like, well, it's Zappa-esque. It has this elements of Fish. It has elements of like the Dead. It has elements of Dave Matthews Band. All these different kinds of things that were, to me, a compliment, because I've listened to all those people and grew up listening to those kinds of people. But at the same time, I was always just trying to write from that mental perspective of like, it's all music. and anything can kind of happen. I mean, even bands, pop music and pop culture, like the Beatles, yes, they started off singing songs like She Loves You, and, you know, other people covering other people's numbers like Twist and Shout, or whatever it may have been, Roll Over Baby. But as they progressed, there were so many other, you know, flourishing moments in the progression of the music that allowed it to be neoclassical, time signature changes inside of a song. You're moving from one feel to another feel on the record. It didn't have a complete uniformity to it. That's what I loved about music, and that's what still pushes me as a listener to go, what is this? What is this? And sometimes it might not be, you know, readily available to people's, like I can relate right away, you know. So like if you put on an Esperanza Spalding album, people might be like, ooh, this is kind of way out. But, you know, at the same time, there's so much going on that it's hard to negate, well, I'm just going to shut it off and not listen to it. I try to approach music the same way. When you listen to my records, you're going to hear a multitude of genres. You're going to hear all kinds of stories that will either make you happy, or they're going to make you think, or they might be sorrowful in some kind of a way, or even angry for that matter. So it's all part of the human condition, and, you know, why not try to show it when you can?
We've got Ed Roman joining us today here on Skype. He joins us live, and Ed, you've got some good stuff here. Tell me about "I Told You So." We're going to play that here in a few moments.
Well, it's one of those reactionary numbers. You know, I'm always talking about food and agriculture, as I said, and "I Told You So" is one of those things you'd say to somebody after 5 or 10 years of it, you know, repetitively telling them, this is not a good idea, this is not a good idea. It's something you don't want to say, but you kind of, you know, you know, right. So here, you go to the grocery store, you pick up vegetables, you know, you're living in a community that, you know, may be cosmopolitan and slightly metropolitan, but at the same time, your food is coming from thousands of miles away. And then, you know, when you buy a product or when you're sold it commercially, how is it sold to you? And the myths that sort of exist behind why we buy as a mass culture. And it goes into multitudes of different things. It's very systemic. It's in politics. It's in socio-political stuff. All of that is relating to that song. Like even the first lyric says, well, who builds the myths inside our shopping carts and all our hearts of everyone you see? You know, we're so, you know, we almost buy without even thinking of the consequences of where that product came from, how far it came from, who maybe was, like, you know, involved in slave labor.
Oh, yeah.
Was it sprayed with heavily, you know, pesticides? All of that stuff that I'm trying to reinvigorate the thinking process and writing that tune in that regard.
Well, here we go. It's "I Told You So," and we are going to put Ed on hold. We're going to play "I Told You So," and we'll be back with more here on the world-famous Jiggy Jaguar Show. A special edition today for our friends exclusively for iHeartRadio. We'll be back here in a few moments with more Ed Roman.
We build the myths inside your shopping carts and all the hearts of everyone you see. Buy up the bygones, illuminate morons. Have you seen it on TV? I hate to say it, but I told you so. I hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Another hand inside the puppet of an ass, falling down on the ground, and he's crying, he's your savior. With his box crying babies will slit you and guilt you. The neon entices to say it, but I told you so. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. I'd hate to say it, but I told you so. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We build the myths inside your shopping carts and all the hearts of everyone you see.
Ed Roman with us today here on iHeartRadio. Exclusive things today coming from our iHeartRadio listeners. We are so happy to be talking to Ed Roman today. He joins us live. And Ed, you've got some really good music out there. What are some goals for you for the next 6 months or so?
Well, I'm headed down to Austin next week to play for the Red Gorilla Music Fest, which is happening parallel to South by Southwest. We're on 6th Street at Thirsty Nickel. I'm planning on heading down to New Jersey at the end of the month again for the Cape May Music Festival. There's a whole plethora of things that, like, other than the dates, but the recording issue is on my mind the most. I'm really excited to get back into the studio and then set up a small tour as I'm doing these dates at the same time for, like, the fall, basically, of 2015 in different spots in the United States. The last bunch of times I was down in Pennsylvania and New York State. I've been stopping in, talking to people, setting up some shows. So it's all just a matter of writing and playing for me. That's what I'm happiest doing, and just functioning as an artist and communicating with people. I like talking to people before or after gigs, whatever it is, because the music is about all of us. So, you know, I'm into talking about it with people.
We've got Ed Roman joining us today here on iHeartRadio. This is a special edition of our iHeartRadio program. Wanted to get Ed Roman on today because he is one of our favorites. He's a classically, musically trained artist, and we love Ed's work. We're going to play The World Keeps on Turning here in a few moments. Tell me about this track. It's an amazing, amazing piece of business.
Well, I've had a wonderful time playing with so many musicians, and on that track is Dave Patel and Mike Friedman, and they both have sort of South African roots, and there's this flair of an African overtone to it, and the rhythms behind it, the melody sort of aspect, the playfulness of it. But in that note, there's a sort of a repetitious phrase at the end of every verse that says, "Keep the bad memories below your knees so you can walk around." And this comes from the Kalahari Bushmen. And the Kalaharis would say that because if you allow those bad memories to arise above you, you know, emotionally, it'll invade your stomach and you won't feel well. And if you keep let it rising over and over again, it takes over your heart. You can't love. It invades your speech and your mind and your thinking, and it's clouded everything, you know, up inside of you and around you. So if you keep it below there, they're always going to be there. You know, the experiences that you have that are negative, but you can't let it override you. So if you can step over it, you can step through it, you can walk through it, but you don't let it invade every part of you. And then all the metaphors that sort of exist on this turning around metaphor, this rotationary thing that we have in our lives. And it even comes from the sort of Carlin-esque thing. He would say, well, you know, the world's just going to shake us off like a bad case of the fleas, you know. The world's always going to keep turning whether we're here or not, despite what the good and the bad is that comes, but just sort of keep moving forward. It's a positive metaphor.
We've got Ed Roman right now with The World Keeps on Turning here on iHeartRadio.
keeps on turning round, but I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground, just like the big wheels on the 235, standing around a fire, yelling glad to be alive. Alive! And all my tall green friends, they be hanging around. There's a warrant out for you boys, they're coming to lay all you down. Keep all your bad memories below the knees so you can walk around. And I hear the world that's turning round. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. Maybe a good swift kick in the push is all that we need. Nothing comes from the grounds without planting some seed. I pick up my axe, I heed the call. I can't stand to seem to bear the weight of it all. Keep all the bad memories below the knees so you can walk around. And I hear the world that's turning round. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. Nothing but shadows falling and even if you deceive me, the world's gonna keep on spinning round, spinning round and round and round, spinning round, spinning round and round and round. Birds sang to me as the plane of people flew away. Seems like it could have happened on any other day. And when the fire's out, will it all still be here, my dear? Don't think it's anything you can measure up into years. Keep all the bad memories below the knees so you can walk around. And I hear the world that's turning round. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. The world keeps on turning round. The world keeps on turning round. But I'm always falling down. But I've got my heart to the ground. Round, 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 round and round and round and round and round and round and round. Round and round she goes where she
It's Ed Roman. World keeps on turning. Oh, yeah, he's with us today here via Skype for our good friends at iHeartRadio. And, Ed, as we wrap up here, my friend, because I know that you've got to get going and we've got to get going, how do people connect with you online? Where is the best spot? How do we get a hold of you? All these various facets of your multimedia and social media career.
Well, it's a pleasure being here again, James. Thanks so much for having me. It's always great to be on the show. You can get me at my website, edroman.net. Very easy to remember. If you need to get in touch with me via gigging or anything like that, contact Michael Stover at MTS Management. All my social networking buttons are through the website. You can check me out on Facebook, Twitter, especially Ed Roman, my YouTube channel. Check me out on Reverb Nation, on SoundCloud. You can listen to all my stuff for free, my back catalog. Get my new record, Letters from High Latitudes. It's doing really well. You'll love it. You'll enjoy it. You'll laugh. You'll cry.
Ed Roman with us today. Ed, thanks for joining us here on iHeartRadio. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day, my friend, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for being on.
Absolutely. No problem, James. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Ed Roman with us today via Skype. We're going to take a big-time time out here. And when we come back, continuing on here on iHeartRadio, we are going to chat with another great guest. So be sure to check us on the iHeartRadio app and more. Coming up, we've got more here on iHeartRadio.